Okay, now do you see
Okay.
it?
Yeah, I can.
Okay, cool. Right then.
It's immediately hilarious.
Okay, so yeah, first point. At one point you fucked up Raina's name and actually said her real name, so
I
I
call it
gave you a
rain
point.
on accident. Okay, I
Yeah,
can believe
so you
it.
got a point for that. Somehow you did call her Rika's not human.
I did.
Yep, which is correct. She's not human, really. I mean, I guess the whole point is actually symbolically in the story that she is human, but she ain't fucking human. Fuck off with that.
Mm-hmm.
You did realize that Reina had lived in Hinamizawa longer than what she was saying
I
before
do
that
feel like I
came.
remember saying something like that.
Yeah,
Yeah.
you said that there was something wasn't matching up with her, being like, "Oh, I've only been
Yes.
here a year." When,
Yeah, I do remember. Yeah, I definitely remember being sus of that.
yeah, to be fair, it wasn't long before the story itself revealed that, but you got that point just in time.
Uh-huh.
You did say that Keiichi was just imagining the whole thing, which she was.
Yep.
So
That's
you
what the
basically
first game.
you solved the first game actually in that point.
Yeah, I won game one.
Yep, that's you winning the game. But you also said here that Keiichi's reason for moving was suspicious, which obviously
I
we would
feel like
find
yeah.
later on. Was it Meikashi or
Yeah, I don't
I
remember.
think outside of 5 or 6, we find why he actually moved, and yes, it was suspicious. Yeah. So when chasing Keiichi at the end, Rain was not lying at any point. So when she was going
I
like all
vaguely remember saying that.
yeah, when she was like saying everything she was saying to Keiichi, and Keiichi was basically interpreting it all the wrong way.
Mm-hmm.
You picked up that this is just his interpretation. If you actually look at what she's saying, she's not saying anything wrong. She's not even actually saying anything particularly malicious. But it's just he's this point he's losing his mind and imagining all of this point.
Uh-huh.
In the process of that, you actually basically described exactly how Hinamizawa syndrome works, and basically it's all paranoia in your head. So yeah, so in the first game, you actually worked out how basically the mechanics of how everyone was losing their minds without actually obviously explicitly saying it's some sort of disease
Yeah,
or
I
something.
really don't remember that at all.
But yeah, you did describe basically Hinamizawa syndrome without calling it a disease or obviously Hinamizawa syndrome,
Mm-hmm.
which obviously would not get introduced into much later in the series. You did joke that the syringe is an EpiPen. You said that as a joke. You weren't actually obviously trying to solve anything.
Yeah.
But
I probably said, oh, it's an EpiPen.
yeah, you said that, which you know what? That actually,
In a way.
yeah, I know it's not the same sort of pen, but you got the point of it's not actually a syringe; it's something harmless.
Mm-hmm.
And an interesting one, the last one, which I don't think anyone ever picks up on. So this is actually kind of a genuine. I've never seen this picked up on before. But why does Tomitaki have dog tags on this
Yeah,
sprite?
and now we know
Oh,
why, 'cause he's a soldier.
exactly. And for some reason, I don't think anyone ever picks up on that.
Mm-hmm.
That it's kind of unusual for him to have that. So in total, you get 9 points for the first game.
Yay.
And yeah, so technically you solve it, and actually you get some points in there that will actually relate to the whole series. That's pretty neat. So this one starts out with not with a point, but just something I thought was interesting in how you thought that they were not going to go for the red herring, which would be Shion, and that it would be Mion. You thought it was too obvious that Shion would be the culprit,
Yeah.
when actually it was Shion. um, yeah, but yeah, second sentence there is that this is relevant as you thought if you had the idea in the previous stream before when this came up.
Mm-hmm.
For what if a game just did the red herring, and the red herring is that you think they're not going to go for the red herring? Well, that's actually basically Watanagashi.
Mm-hmm.
So in a way, you actually described the concept of Watanagashi in the stream directly before we started playing.
Yeah.
So GG on that. Anyway, so the actual points then. At some point you said that Rika knows that Keiichi killed everyone in the last arc, which yes, she does because she knows everything that's going on in every arc because she goes through every arc.
I like that Rika knows everything that is going on at all times.
Yes, because she does. She does.
Oh, that's great.
Uh, you did call that Shion wanted to do one over Mion, which is basically Shion's motivations.
Mm-hmm.
Um, You also said here, don't trust nurses.
You never trust nurses and
Yep.
fiends, right?
Which again proved to be true. There was a
Yep.
nurse in this series. You definitely did not want to trust her.
Uh-huh.
And more, for more than the joke reasons at this point, as would turn out, as she murders everyone most of the time. And yes, and I said too, obviously missing the context, but in full context. But Shion said something, and you said, "Did Mion say that during the last arc?"
Yeah.
Which is kind of you, kind of picking up on why are they that similar? When yes, it could be explained by that they were switching.
Mm-hmm.
Um, yeah. Also, at some point, Rika's saying something, and I think uh, as a bit of a joke, but also maybe not knowing what Rika knows. But she foreshadowed her getting killed in the basement, which is exactly what happens in these two games, in
Mm-hmm.
Watanagashi and Meikashi.
Mm-hmm.
And at the time, you basically said, "Yeah, this is foreshadowing," which is true. It was foreshadowing.
Yeah. Yep.
um, Obviously, without us being, I think this one happened immediately before we got to the shrine. So basically,
Yeah.
when uh, Shion takes Keiichi from the crowd, you said that she was going to do this, and well, she did. That was proven within minutes, but you just got in. You got in soon enough to get the point.
Yep.
And also that Mion was lying about why she was tired after the festival
Uh-huh.
and
I do
being
remember that
hungover.
one.
You did call that, which, as it would turn out, is because she was searching for the mayor who had just gone missing because
Mm-hmm.
Shiona just killed him. Um, I gave you a half point here because you didn't say why it was weird or really expand enough on it, but you do get a half point for basically saying why is Mion the successor and not Akane. Um, Again, you never really expand out. I don't think you even mentioned this point again until it's explained why that's the case. But you get a
Right.
half point there for noticing this is weird.
Yeah. Okay.
Okay. Uh, Here, that's where you talk about if a twin hypothetically didn't want to be the successor, which arguably is true of Mion, or well,
The
the
sisters, yeah.
Mions. Yeah, that actually the the Mion as we know as a successor didn't actually really want to be
Right.
her. So again, you didn't say enough there, but to actually get a point for it, but and that's a neat
Right.
thing. You do get a point for the next thing, which basically solves the game of how Shion is on a power trip and murders everyone. It's like, yes, she is. That's this mystery there. So yeah, you got the action. You didn't get why she's doing it, but
Right.
that's what she did. You did say that Shion faked her disappearance, which she did.
I don't remember that at all, but all right.
Yep. I may have been fudging this one slightly, but you did, in technically in what you said was correct, in
Okay.
terms of the swapping around and the bullshit that was going on. You did say Mion is pulling some BS pretending to be Shion. It's like, yes, actually, the other way round, but you did get that.
Yeah.
I mean, the way they switched the names, fuck it, you could technically argue that either way, but you had that idea. You had the idea that they were switching around and it was bullshit. You get a half point for immediately thinking it was Mion pretending Mion shouldn't know about that event. I forget what that event was. I really should have written a better note here for it. We got half a point for it.
All
Whatever
right.
that was. It was half a point in there somewhere.
Yeah.
You did correctly get. I think this is all very near the end. I think when Mion is threatening to murder Keiichi, you're saying that
Hmm.
Mion was covering up for someone, which is true. It was coming from the fact that we know her as Shion.
Right.
You did pick up on that Mion was referring to herself in the third person.
She did that a few times,
Yeah.
but most of the time it was like after we already knew.
hmm Yeah. I think you picked that up enough before it became obvious why she was doing that.
Right.
You did pick up this. I think the game itself says that, but you picked up on before the game makes the point that their murders were too different to Mion, and that Mion probably had nothing to do with them.
Mm-hmm.
And
The
yeah,
way you wrote that was good.
Yes, he said.
So what's it? Get stabbed by a paranoid hallucination? Yeah, you did.
Yeah, exactly. So again, this kind of ties into the first game, how you're figuring out what was delusion and what was real. And
Mm-hmm.
this is another case of, well, actually, you called that correctly, that he made that up. That was just his. That was just him going crazy, basically.
Okay.
Bonus question point, I cannot show you that.
Oh.
And for the sake of people watching as well, if you have not watched or read Go or Sotsu Meguri, um, though if you are going to do that, I would recommend you read it rather than watching it, um, because Sotsu as an anime is questionable at best. Go as an anime is pretty good, but if you're not going to actually watch Sotsu the anime, there's no point actually then really watching Go the anime. You may as well just read the manga version for the whole thing, and you'll actually get a continuous story that is alright. um, but at some point during all of this, Jim's actually got it correct what the solution is for those two series. And I can't show that because obviously that is the solution for those two series, and it takes what little mystery there is in those series from those series and makes them actually completely awful. So moving on.
Okay.
Again, this will make no sense unless you know what I'm talking about, which will make
Okay.
sense to probably only Potato, and I'm fine with that. But basically, Potato, when you're watching, Jim Scott, who was behind the new series, he got it, right? He called it in the second game, and you know who that is, but he did it.
In a game that I haven't seen or played or know anything about.
Exactly,
Oh
right?
gosh.
But you got to do it. Also, put in foreshadowing because obviously, since I know what the solution is,
Mm-hmm.
I was able to just note down things I was noticing, which is um okay. So when Xian calls Keiichi like on the phone, af- after he learns that she should be missing, she loses it when Keiichi asks why the curse exists. Essentially, she can't hold up the act when he brings this up
Mm-hmm.
because it's actually legitimately distressing for her to, you know, this is basically Shion's problem is why does this curse exist? So when Keiichi, in a similarly distressed position, is sort of asks why does this curse exist to her, it kind of breaks down her act because that's her
Mm-hmm.
problem. She doesn't know why the
Right.
curse exists. So that was interesting that that's what broke her act. And yeah, at some point, Keiichi says to Shion, "You two say the same things," because
That's pretty cool.
which she says to Shion, who was pretending to be Mion at the time. So it was quite
Right.
literally the two of them saying the same thing because it was the same
Uh-huh.
person. Anyway, moving on to the third game. You figure out that Satoko is central to the mystery, but it's completely off about the motive or what she will do.
Right.
You said that she will go crazy and kill all the family, which is correct on the crazy, and killing her family, but not correct on why she does this. So again, you got the how, but you didn't get the why on this. But that's point worthy
Okay.
because, well, actually, it's kind of cool. You do say then that Satoko will go crazy, but again, you say that she'll be the murderer in this game, which is not true. She doesn't actually murder anyone in the period of the
Correct.
game.
Right.
Basically, her killing her parents is a constant, but and even then, that's actually debated. I think some people make arguments that she didn't kill her parents. Whatever, but yeah, but the point is, you were saying that she was going to be the cause of the curse this year, which she's never actually directly the cause of the curse. Um, you then say in reference to our favorite Chad, okay, he is the killer,
Yeah.
which you're not correct that he's the killer. You could, but the point is that he is central to conspiracy and is an accomplice in a way. As I even if he's unwilling, you kind of call out that he is involved in what happens. And
Okay.
basically, you really get the point because you just generally find him suspicious. And that you kind of don't
Okay.
like him, even though you don't know
Seems,
why.
seems a bit of a free point, but all right, I'll take
It's
it.
a little bit. Because obviously, in the end, he kind of comes good, and we know he comes good. However, there are some fragments where it's kind of. We don't know enough to say that he feels the same in every fragment. We know he pretty much feels the same in every fragment, but you can't deny he is kind of he does really allow a lot of this to happen. Not that he allows it and he wants it to happen or he doesn't care. Just because of who he is central to basically the whole thing being possible. So that's why I
Mhm.
give you there that basically that there is more to him. There is something suspicious about him, which there clearly is. And to be fair, he did actually dissect some people. So
Yeah.
he kind of comes good at the end, but he's not entirely innocent, really. Um, and he kind of gets away with it in the end of the game, actually, thinking about it. Because, yeah, he was actually more than an accomplice to several things which
Mhm.
are
Mhm.
not great. But anyway, you say when Raina uses the analogy of a disaster killing everyone in the village, you also call this as foreshadowing, which
But yeah, that was pretty
it
obvious.
was pretty obvious, but you call it, so fuck you get a free point.
Oh yeah.
Um, and actually, and later on, I think uh, at the end of the game, you do point out again that that you point back to Raina that Rado essentially predicted everything that happened.
Mhm.
At this point, you start suggesting that people can remember parts of previous fragments, which is true. So you're kind of beginning to piece together kind of the connections.
Mhm.
Um, Helped a lot by Steins Gate in that, and that it's a very
Oh
similar
yeah.
mechanic to how that goes
The
on.
Steins Gate logic, understanding that very well
Yeah,
helps.
but you get the point for recognizing that you can apply that sort of logic to this situation. Um, you made the connection that Rena, basically who's murdered at the start of the game, is Tepe's mistress, which is
Yeah,
why
I
he
remember
returned to him as
calling that one
Al.
out.
Yep,
I
you
remember
figured
calling that
all
one
that
out.
out. It's good. Um, you suggested a stupid edit to get bonus points, despite already getting bonus points for solving the entire series, as above, in the thing I can't tell you about.
Yeah.
Um, but even if you didn't do that, you would have won the series by suggesting that stupid edit because it was pretty stupid. It was quite funny, and I actually forget which specific one that was. However, around
Yeah.
this period in Higurashi, there was a lot of stupid shit flying around, so
Okay.
it could have been a lot of things there.
All right.
You got the simple one of Satoshi killed his aunt before the game
Yeah.
explicitly
At
says
some
that.
point, that was pretty clear.
I know it was made clear, but you get
Mhm.
the point because you got it before the game made it clear.
Right. Same with
And
the next one.
exactly. You pick up on this immediately that she should not be alive before Keiichi himself realizes, wait, shit, she shouldn't be alive. And also in this scene, you say, "Did we both do a murder tonight?" As a joke, obviously knowing that Keiichi did a murder. But you get it correct that Takano herself has also actually done a murder.
Yeah. 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 Yeah.
You also say it's all interdimensional bullshit for what's going on. It's all trying to explain
Yep.
why Takano was there, which kinda.
Yep.
Um, and also you point out that when we hear bells, which is not only Keiichi but several other characters as well, it's when Keiichi's going crazy.
Mhm.
Um, you don't know who Hanyu is. That's just me adding here that Hanyu is present,
Yeah.
which
Yeah.
is why it's going on. So you get a half point for that. Again,
Right.
you don't kind of know the why, but you recognize that those bells have something to do with why he's losing his mind.
Mhm.
Uh, and also, you point out that Rika is oddly insistent on getting lit. Notice how Rika is insistent on drinking in the extra scenes,
Mhm.
which we would then find at I think it's even later. Is it even in Meikashi? We start seeing her drink. I think it's even later than that. But
Uh-huh.
again, you've already pointed out why is just like she a regular drinker at this point, which would obviously come up later.
Mhm.
In terms of foreshadowing in this game, uh, so Shion says, "I can't get into a cheering mode without a pretty guy on the team," which of course she's referring to Satoshi
Yep.
with this. Keiichi thinks that she's just trying to get him to join the team,
Right.
but no, she's being sincere. She's actually referring to Satoshi.
Mhm.
Also, then when Reina was talking to Keiichi about making everything fun and not to wait until tomorrow because a volcano could kill everyone, tomorrow. She laid on this analogy on tick, which is foreshadowing for the end of the chapter. Again, you actually call this as foreshadowing.
Right.
Uh, the extra bit that I wanted to add on here was that she also made the point that being the only survivor would be awful, which foreshadows her avoiding the main disaster in most fragments, and that a lot of the time when there are survivors, she is one of the survivors. Um, so not only does it foreshadow the actual cover story for the disaster, but also foreshadows that she, in a lot of cases, will survive the disaster and be one of the few survivors. And that it is actually awful. It's also here. I'm not sure if he was talking to either Shion or Keiichi at this point, but he does say to one of them, referring to Satoshi, all I can say is he ran away. Which, of course, is all he can say because if he said the truth about Satoshi, he would reveal the true purpose of the ERA clinic.
Yep.
And that, at this point, I'm not sure if I write it down anywhere else, but ERA is actually an excellent liar in a lot of
Mm-hmm.
these games. Uh, and yeah, you can sort of see bits where you're like, oh, so that's why he words that in that specific way. Anyway, on to chapter 4, which is very short and therefore didn't have a lot of points. You recognize that Rika knows exactly what is going to happen in a few years, which of course she does as she loops, as we
Mm-hmm.
know how this goes out. At the same, I was saying you get this because you pointed out before. Obviously, the whole point of this game is that it explicitly says this.
Uh-huh.
Your exact quote was, "The true, really weird one is Rika because she knows everything that is going to happen." Uh, At some point before the end of the game, you say you are a terrible husband, bad end, referring to Akasaka, which, yes, actually, this is a bad end because he's a terrible husband. Because he's not good with his wife, and that's one of the causes of every bad end in this series, is the fact that
Yay.
he's the terrible husband. And yeah, the one time he's actually a good husband, the disaster is averted. Well, actually, not the one time, but it's part of what's required. You suggest that they retconned the curse and the fork lower to fit the disaster. How if basically the part of the curse where it's like if Oyoshiro-san was pissed off, Mizma would flow from the depths of hell, which is the cover story essentially to give for the disaster. Yeah, you point out that this is very convenient and that
Mm-hmm.
they made this up, which of course they made it up because it's all a cover up. So they made it
Yep.
conveniently to fit with the curse.
Yay.
Um, Again, before the end of this game, you say plot twist. Oishi has written all these games the whole time, which okay, technically this isn't true. He didn't actually write all the games, but
Yeah.
I gave you a point because at the end of this game ends with him and Akasaka actually writing.
Writing a book.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so fuck you get a point for that because you predict them
Yay.
writing a book. The points obviously begin to get a lot thinner from this point because now we're actually getting answers, but there are still some things that you're solving as we go. You get a point for this one. This is quite good because you get this like something like the first or second chapter or something like within like the same chapter that we first meet Satoshi as Shion. You make this point of how you understand everything Shion did in chapter 2. She loses her love, meets Keiichi, very similar to Satoshi. She gets really jealous when Mion falls from him, so on and so forth. Yeah, we get her murdering talk. So, yeah, so you get the point here because you pick this up immediately after Shion meets Satoshi. You work out that parallel between Shion, Satoshi, and Mion and Keiichi. Um, yeah, you don't. The thing is, at this point, you work out why Shion does what she does. Well, you hadn't, I think, properly worked out that it was actually Shion who did the murdering in Watanagashi. You
Mm-hmm.
still, at this point, you still think it was Mion. Um, And to be fair, this isn't her entire motivation, but it's obviously a significant part of her motivation. So you get the point for getting the motivation, even if at this point you haven't, let's say, fully got the motivation or have got the right murderer yet.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, Second point here, again, to be honest, mainly because it's funny, because you kind of already said this, but it's funny. You say nurses are sus and Camera Otaku are weird. This is scientifically proven.
It is.
Yeah, the reason I gave you another point because you also include Tomitaki as being sus.
Yeah.
And yet, as I say here, it's funny how at this point in the series, you've suspected all three of the main culprits, but you just see it as a joke because you seriously can't believe that any of these three people could actually be involved in what's going on. So, yeah. As I say, can't wait to see what happens when he realizes that the jokes and memes are true.
Yeah.
Which was pretty funny when it happened.
Yeah.
Yeah, and this is where I say the foreshadowing of how Iri is very good at lying on what he knows, especially when talking about Satoshi, which he cannot say anything at all about that, and does a very good job of lying. I think at some point, actually, Shion did explicitly say she admires his ability to lie, even if she hasn't realized all the
Yeah.
lies he said to her. I did put this here. I did show you this, but for the sake of viewers, this appeared on my timeline around the time we were doing this, and it was oddly relevant to everything that was going on. I don't know why she's looking at Pikachu with sauce. No questions. Anyway, best game. Um, by popular opinion.
Mm.
Second best by our opinion because we're weird.
Yeah.
Right. So, at the start of the game, when Reina is making like her speeches at the start of the game, and as we find out, everyone's gathered at the dump. You joke that Reina is about to reveal the body.
She did.
It's exactly why they're all there. Is because she's just been found with a body.
Yeah.
So basically, you solve the game in the very first chapter. It's not even actually the first chapter; it's the fucking prologue, and you solve the game. So you get a point. Second point you get here is you say this is all happening because of Mio's bullshit. Which as a in this specific case, it's obvious and not really point worthy that Rena's paranoia is caused by her bullshit. But you get the point because it's the TLDR for the entire plot. This is Mio's bullshit. I didn't give you a point, but you did say that when I asked you that Rika was the most sus. This so you got those first 2 points you got during the game. These last points it came into discussion afterwards. The who did the discussion. You say that Rika is the most sus. I wrote that down as kind of interesting. Again, you're kind of right in that Rika is sus. There's something going on there. Obviously, not right that she's the culprit. She's the exact opposite of the culprit. She's the victim. And then I gave you some more prodding, and you get 2 more points when you say that Rika is a reincarnation of Oyoshi-Osama, which, as while not strictly true, is close enough for engineering. So you get a point for that.
All right.
And I think actually in some points they do say it is. I'm not entirely sure she's actually the reincarnation, but as it's close enough that you get the point for it. And you say here that Rika is doing some Groundhog Day shit, which, yep, that's it.
Yeah. More or
That's what
less.
she's doing.
Yeah.
And then this was where the random VN bot conveniently actually revealed the whole plot of the game as well, where Rika Frude has been dragged into the forest by an unknown entity never to be seen again. Which, yes, other than the fragments where Shion kills her, yeah, that's kind of what happens. Anyway, so then on to the last point you actually get. You didn't get a point for this, but it was words preceding disaster. You say, see, this Takano doesn't suck.
God damn it.
Um, and then she goes on to be the worst version of Takano we see in any of these games. Apparently I predicted global warming one line before Satoko does. So that's not really a point for anyone, but neat. So I say she, Takano, dies every time before Rika, so she could not kill Rika. And then you say, so you think. It's like, yes, this is it. You solved the whole thing of how Takano dies before Rika, and how the whole thing with Takano faking her death with Tomitake and pretending that she's the curse. Yes, this is the key part of the whole mystery, and you got it in a throwaway line that you didn't think about.
I think I remembered back to the weird shit in like game 1, whatever, when Takano was like,
Yeah.
what the point I got before for Takano being alive and like they didn't whatever.
Yeah.
I think I just recalled that kind of
Yeah.
jokingly.
Exactly. But you had it. You
Yeah.
didn't know you had it, but you had it there. You'd figured it out at that point, which obviously would then be explained later on in this game. How Takano faked her death, but in that throwaway line, you basically say Takano's faking her death. That's how she can do this.
Mm-hmm.
So I'd say, yeah, this is exactly what happens. You solved the game,
You win the game.
and you didn't realize.
See, this Takano doesn't suck.
Oh, that is the best worst preceding disaster I think we've had in any of these games.
Yeah.
Because that wasn't like in chapter like 2 or 3 of the game, like right at the very start. You're like, see, she doesn't suck. And this is literally the Takano we see shoot everybody in the face individually and then hack Rika to bits. Literally the worst Takano we've ever seen.
Oh god.
So yeah, so that's your scorecard for Higurashi. I'm not sure what the conclusion
Yay.
is because he didn't solve it.
The conclusion is that we played way too many visual novels, and I can both accidentally and purposefully predict shit at this point. And it's kind of sad.
Yeah. So I've learned is that someone can accidentally solve Higurashi, maybe not intentionally solve Higurashi. So it's a thing. So I don't know. I guess do you win? Do you lose?
We all lose.
Okay, we all lost here today. Well, shit, that's Higurashi done then.
Yep. Everybody go home.
Okay. Now what?
You go to bed.
Oh yeah, shit, everyone can see my time. That is late. I guess Sunday now.
Yeah, I'm really hungry too, so I'm gonna eat.
Yeah, well, I guess I'm done. I mean, I guess early, like, probably the end of the last video, we said thank you for watching along. Especially thank you then if you bothered to watch the bonus bullshit video at the end of the series. If I
Mm-hmm.
spun it off into its own video. I may not have spun it off into its own video. This could all be one, like, 2 hour long video I did to end the series because I got sick of dividing up into parts and went, you know what, fuck it. Last 2 hours, who gives a shit anymore? I'm just going to churn
I
it
don't
on
know. We did
YouTube.
a freaking robotics notes meme video.
Yeah. Yeah, but that was a very specific thing.
I think this one would be good to have on its own,
It'll
because
probably
then
fit on its
people
own.
might find it on its own.
Yeah.
It's like looking at weird shit about Higurashi.
Mm-hmm. Well, now that we pull back the curtain, if you're one of those people who just watch this and nothing else, well, thank you for watching that. We won't
Yes,
make you go through the rest of it, but if you do, you may have a good time.
yes,
The people who have watched everything kind of enjoyed it. Kind of. Ish. Generally positive feedback for the one person who
yay,
watched most of it,
yay.
I think. I don't think anyone's actually watched more than half of the series. Which, to be honest, going by like YouTube's viewer retention standards, that's actually pretty good. So we'll
Yes,
take that one. Oh, I guess we're done here then. I should go to bed.
yeah, yeah.
Right. You can't solve this game, it's bullshit. Oh.
Game stinks.
Anyway, when are we playing the next game?
Uh,